Okay, so I managed to refine all of this a little bit. So the magnet is no longer held on there with glue. There's actually a screw that kind of goes up through this whole assembly. And I didn't get a good picture of it while I was making it, so you'll just have to take my word for it that it's all held together with a screw. But yeah, this definitely isn't going to fall off again. And then same thing here, this metal piece is now held on with a screw. So yeah, I had to drill that out a little bit with a 5.5 millimeter drill bit, and then I threaded a 6 millimeter worm screw in there. And this is something that you might just need a custom solution for every striker you make. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be possible to drill and tap a hole into other types of materials, but that might be something you just have to test out as you make other different types of strikers. And that also serves to fill this hole with a little bit of metal, so hopefully that will be a little bit better. And now that there's a metal screw in the center of this metal piece, the magnet can grab a little bit more towards the center of this. So it's a little better anyway. And then I also made some little clippy things that go on the side of the striker to keep it from rotating out of the way. And I think that's a little bit better than the hot glue. The only downside is that now it'll be a little bit more difficult to change the rubber band out if you need to change the rubber band. But anyway, I'm going to send you a whole handful of these to use in your other strikers. So another thing is that I was finding it difficult to position this to exactly the right height. So I made it now so if you play MIDI note number C6, this will move all the way down and then turn the magnet completely off for 5 seconds. So now I can position that exactly where I want it without the magnet kind of interfering with what I'm doing. And then, yeah, just there the magnet turned back on, or it removed power to the magnet, but so now the permanent magnet in there is holding this together. But now I can just tighten these, and that's exactly where I want it to be now. And so now you can see even if I use a very low velocity, this is positioned exactly correctly, so it shouldn't come back up and latch onto the magnet when it releases. So this is a velocity 5 stroke again. Yeah, so just positioning this really precisely helped that. And now that all this is a lot more precise, I can also pull this all the way up to the top without it falling off. So this will be a velocity 127 stroke, which, yeah, will just retract this 100% of the way that it can go. Yeah, so absolutely no problem doing that. Okay, so I got force control working, and just for the sake of testing, I made this web interface where I can test this out. And so using this kind of slider here, I can select how much force I want, and then when I click strike, this thing will move down, attach to the magnet, and then pull up, and then this little orange line here will indicate how much force is actually being applied to the motor, and then that will just rise until it reaches the desired force there, and then the magnet will hold for a second and then release. And so I'll just show you, for instance, for about 20% force, and this is just kind of an arbitrary scale here, I can strike. Yep. Or I could do, say, about 30%. And just to show you, this works really well with small amounts of force as well. And if you go too high, it might not be able to apply quite this much force. And so you see what happened there is that this moved all the way to the top of its range without ever reaching the desired force, and this just fell off. And you can also see that all three LEDs on the top of the unit are on to indicate that there is some sort of error. It never reached the target force. And this is all also accessible via MIDI note number C5, where the velocity controls how much force you want. So here is note number C5. And you can see also this indicated the force as it was moving up. And the velocity 0 to 127 here kind of corresponds to this range of 0 to 100 here. So you have to scale that appropriately in your head. Okay, so let's try striking an actual instrument with varying amounts of force. So I guess I'll start here with maybe about 5%. And 10%. 15. And so just to recapitulate, if you want to pull up by a specific distance, then you use MIDI note number C4. And if you want to pull up to a specific force, then you use MIDI note number C5. And then MIDI note number C6 goes down and just turns the magnet off for 5 seconds so you can adjust things.